Webclock is the process of employees clocking in and clocking out within the software system. This makes a more streamlined approach for employees' time to be imported when processing payroll. With your company's specifications, we can assist you with setting up Webclock for your company. Under the Other Setup Items box, there will be a hyperlinked Webclock settings selection. Clicking on Webclock settings will reveal specific rules that can be modified for your company using the Webclock service. When setting up Webclock, it's helpful to have the following information ready: the different pay types for your employees, the day which your work week begins. Certain rules will need to be set in place before employees begin using Webclock. To set specific Webclock rules, click on the Company tab, and under the Other Setup Items box, click on Webclock Settings. Once you click on Webclock Settings, the following screen will reflect, which shows all of the rules that can be modified. These rules include Auto Clockout. Automatically clocks out of previously incomplete clock-in events upon the next successful clock-in. This functionality is intended to work in conjunction with clock prompts. For example, employee clocks into job 1, then clocks in at job 2. Therefore, job 1 will automatically add a clock out. Auto Lunch automatically deducts a set number of minutes after a set amount of hours. This functionality must be set up. You don't want the missed meal penalty to reflect on employees' time cards. California Overtime. California Overtime rule paying 1.5 hourly rate for work over 8 hours in a workday and 40 hours in a work week, and the first 8 hours on the 7th consecutive date of work. Paying 2 times hourly rate for work over 12 hours in a workday, and 2 times the hourly rate for work over 8 hours on the 7th consecutive day of work. Clock prompts. Prompts which can be presented to users upon clock in or clock out. Federal overtime. Required and no changes are allowed. Employees receive overtime pay at 1.5 times the regular rate of pay for all hours worked over 40 hours in a work week. Missed meal penalty. In California, a meal period of at least 30 minutes must be provided for a work period more than 5 hours unless the work period is no longer than 6 hours. An additional meal period of at least 30 minutes must be provided if the employee works more than 10 hours a day, but no more than 12 hours. Rounding minutes. Rounds the minutes to the nearest specified increment. Timesheet pay types. Select the pay types that are available on the employee time cards. Time zone. This is a required field, and it sets the time zone in which the employees work. Note, the time zone is a required field. However, if it is not set, the time zone will default to the time zone of the Service Bureau. Work week start day. This is a required field. This is the day which the work week begins. This day will be used for applying overtime rules. The work week start day is required to calculate overtime rules properly. However, there is no validation to ensure the work week start day is set. Unless a rule is required, as listed in red on the far right side of the screen, one can also make each rule either active, default and colored blue, or unactive, colored gray, by clicking on the white radio button for each rule. For each rule that is active, one can specifically edit it by clicking on the edit icon on the far left side of the screen. Within each edit screen that pops up, click on Add to edit anything, Delete to delete anything, and once complete, click on Save. In order to make sure employees are able to clock in and out and administrators are able to adjust employees' timesheets when needed, it's a good idea to configure the approval level for this selection. To make sure this is set correctly, as an administrator, click on the ESS tab. Within the next page that pops up, click on the Admin tab. Then, within the Approval Configuration sub-tab, select the Configuration option. Within the entity boxes that reflect on the Approval Configuration page, you will click on the Webclock timecards box to either change or confirm the approval. Once Webclock timecards have been selected, click on the box below Admin. If you cannot directly click on this box, unselect whatever box has a check mark next to it, then click on the box below Admin. When completed, click on Save. You will also want to configure the security level for this selection. To make sure this is set correctly, as an administrator, click on the ESS tab. Within the next page that pops up, click on the Admin tab. Then, within the Security Configuration sub-tab, highlight the appropriate security role that has been set up within the General Info option. Click on the Rules options, and then click on Add. Within the Data to Secure drop-down box, select Webclock timecards, then click on Save. If certain rules should not have access to either add, edit, and/or delete on Webclock, select the boxes next to each. Leaving all boxes unchecked will provide the role you're editing with access to all options. You can also change which data this rule applies to: all data, one's own data, or viewing someone else's data, by selecting the drop-down box next to Rule Applies When. Administrators can access employees' time cards through the time card dashboard on the ESS Kiosk. They will have the ability to add, edit, and delete punches on the employee's time card until it is submitted by the employee. Administrators will log onto the ESS Kiosk, click on the Management tab, then click on Time Card Dashboard subtab. The employees that the administrator has access to will appear in the Employee Search drop-down box. A list of all the employees who need to have their time cards approved will be listed below the filter sections. The filter sections include: filter, selecting the type or group of employees; period, the time card period; cost centers, specifically set up for your company, such as location, type, department, etc., and job codes, selecting a specific labor category. Once any filter selections have been made, click on the Refresh button. To clear all filters, click on the Clear Filters button. Clicking on the Clear Filters button will clear the default time card period, so the period will need to be selected again and the Refresh button clicked on in order to return to the default filters. Selecting any of the boxes next to Show Missing Punches, Show Unapproved Time Card, Show Missed Meal Penalties, and Show OT or OT2 will automatically filter the listed employees. Unselecting any of these boxes will automatically remove the selected filter. Below the filter selections, this is where the employees' time cards can be reviewed, based on the filter selections selected above. Clicking on the magnifying glass icon next to each of the employees' names will take the administrator to the Time Cards subtab within the Management tab. One can submit and reopen an employee's time card by clicking on the Submit Time Card button or the Reopen Time Card button if the time card has already been submitted. When either submitting or reopening an employee's time card, it does not send any kind of notification to the employee that their time card has been submitted or reopened. It is recommended to notify the employee if their time card has been submitted or reopened for any reason, so they can make any necessary modifications to their time card. To return to the time card dashboard, click on the hyperlinked Return to Time Cards button in the upper left section of the screen. If an approval is set up for time cards to be reviewed by an administrator, when the approver logs onto the kiosk, there will be an approval notification and count listed in the Alert menu, which is located in the upper right corner of the screen. Click on the Alert in the Alerts menu. Another way to access this screen is by clicking on the Approval tab and then clicking on the Webclock Time Cards subtab. Time cards that require approval will be displayed. To review a time card before approving or declining it, click on the magnifying glass to the left of the employee's name. The administrator can view the details of the employee's time card, but cannot make any changes to the window that pops up. To approve a time card, click on the green Approve button. To decline a time card, click on the red Decline button. A pop-up confirmation message will appear. Enter a brief note as to why the time card is being declined, and then click on OK. If a note is not entered, the time card will not be declined properly. When declining an employee's time card, it does not send a declining reason to the employee. It is recommended to notify the employee if their time card has been declined, including the reason it needs to be modified. After time cards have been submitted and approved, if an approval is set up, they can be imported directly into payroll. To begin, you will navigate to the home screen of PayNet Online. Click on the Dashboard subtab, and then click on the Time Cards tab. Here you will see all of the time cards that have been submitted, approved, and whether or not they have been imported. You can filter your results based on your company's filters to show which employees' time cards you would like to review before submitting for payroll. You can review each employee's time cards by clicking on the magnifying glass icon to the left of the employee's name. Here you will see the same options that were available for administrators in the ESS Kiosk. Here you can make any final adjustments, reopen time cards, and submit time cards on behalf of those employees who have not submitted them. Once you have reviewed all of your employees' time cards and are ready to submit them for payroll, you will return to the Time Cards dashboard. You can do this by either clicking on the Return to Time Cards hyperlink at the top left of the screen, or you can navigate back to the Home, Dashboards, Time Card tab. To finalize these time cards and ready them to be submitted for payroll, you will select the Finalize Period button. Note, once you have done this, you will be able to edit the period before payroll starts. However, once you have locked batches within payroll, you will not be able to make any changes to these time cards. Another option that you can utilize within the timecard dashboard is the ability to bulk punch. You can select a punch date that you wish to give to multiple employees versus having to enter them manually one at a time. You can choose a filter to which employee filter this punch applies to. Choose your pay type. Note, this is set up under the company Webclock setup. You will select the timesheet pay types. Add a filter for which employee you wish to have a filter for, and then choose Save. And select the amount of hours you wish to add to your Select Employee Group's timecard. This will then automatically add the hours and pay type to each employee's timecard for that given date chosen. Once you have done all of this and are ready to import your employees' timecards into Payroll, you will navigate to the Payroll tab within P&O. Once you have your desired check date chosen, you will click on Start Payroll at the bottom right of the screen. Once you have your batches selected, you will move on to the payroll entry screen by clicking on the green payroll entry button on the bottom right of the screen. You will then see in the import section of the entry tab the option for review timecards, edit period, and import hours. The review timecards option will navigate you back to the same timecard dashboard as seen earlier. You can make any last-minute adjustments or reviews at this time. To navigate back to payroll, simply click on the Return to Payroll button. If you click on the Edit Period button, this will allow you to make those changes to your employees' timecards. Once you have made those changes, you can click on Finalize Period, and this will solidify these timecards and ready them for import. Once the period has been finalized, you will simply click on the Import Hours button. You will then see a screen that shows the amount of successful timecards that were imported. Note, you will want to make sure that the batch you wish to import your timecards to is configured when you set up TimeClock as a service, as this is where you will be choosing where your timecards will be imported to. From here, you will be able to view the employee's imported timecard entry within the batch. This is where employees are able to clock in and clock out on the ESS kiosk, as well as edit and submit their own timecard. They can also choose to have Webclock prompt them to clock in and clock out when they log onto the ESS kiosk. Once employees log onto the ESS kiosk, they will click on the Webclock tab. They will be automatically taken to the Webclock sub-tab. Clock in and clock out options are presented where the employee will click on the appropriate option. If the clock prompts are set up through the Webclock rules that pertain to the employee logged in, they will be displayed after the clock in or clock out options are presented, dependent upon the rules. The employee must make a selection based upon the rules and click on Complete when done. After making the necessary selections, the screen will reflect the time an employee is successfully clocked in or clocked out. The Timecard sub-tab allows employees to review current timecards, where they're able to add, edit, and delete timecard punches. Employees can also review previous timecards. Employees must be set up with permissions to add and edit their timecards, which can be done by using the security configuration directions. Once employees log on to the ESS kiosk, they will click on the Webclock tab. Then they will click on the Timecard sub-tab. As a default, the current time period should reflect. If a different time period is needed, they will select the appropriate time period from either the drop-down box or the blue hyperlinked previous period or next period. In order to add or edit a punch, they will click on the blue hyperlinked Add or Edit buttons. The row will be enabled for add or edit information. They will enter or adjust the time in a format of 8 a.m. or p.m. Depending on the rules that were set up through Webclock, the employee will select any necessary cost codes and or pay type for that row. Once all adjustments have been made to the row, they'll click on Save. When adding or editing time, the colon must be included in the time format, otherwise the time will not save. For example, 08:00 a.m. or p.m. In order to delete a row, they will click on the blue hyperlinked Edit button. They will then click on the blue hyperlinked Delete button. A pop-up confirmation message will appear, where they'll click on the OK. The Delete button will delete the entire row, not just a single punch. To delete just a single punch, use the Edit button. When a time period is over, the employee must submit their timecards so that the time may be processed in payroll. Once a timecard has been submitted, it is not able to be edited unless it is reopened. If there is no approval set up, then the timecards are automatically approved and ready for import into payroll. If there is an approval set up, the submitting of timecards by each employee will trigger the approval process. Once employees log onto the ESS kiosk, they will click on the Webclock tab and they will click on the Timecard sub-tab. When on this screen, they will select the correct period from the drop-down box. If all time has been entered correctly, they will click on the Submit Time Card button. A pop-up confirmation message will appear where they will click on OK. The time card will then refresh and the blue hyperlinked Add Edit buttons will be replaced with Submitted. Note: should any employee submit their time card, but it has not yet been approved by an administrator, the following screen will appear, where they will not be able to use the punch buttons to clock in or clock out. The workaround for this, until the time card has been approved by an administrator, is to manually enter their time within the Time Clock sub-tab. With PayNet's Webclock service, make tracking time and attendance simple and efficient. Choose PayNet Online for your Webclock services today.